In the past few years, we've heard the term free agents and been told we would all need to become one in order to succeed. The recent economic structures have helped to promote this concept as reality. Where do we get the tools to take control of our career path in the present and future? Welcome to the Career Confidante with your host, Marie Zimenoff. Marie and her guest experts are here to provide you with the tools you need to move forward and achieve your career goals. Now, here is Marie Zimenoff.
Welcome to the Career Confidante, and we're glad you're here today. And you are going to be extra glad you're here today because we have a guest and we're going to be talking about a topic that impacts most of us, and that is a lack of confidence impacting our careers. I almost said competence, but I think we'll talk about the difference about those two a little bit today too. So our guest today is Kate Pozeznik, and Kate is a resume writer, advisor, and founder of Quirk Personal Branding and Career Consulting. And Kate is also on the board of Career Thought Leaders. She has been an executive in the tech field, and now works with people, and especially women, to advance their careers. So we're excited to have you here, Kate. Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here, Marie. This is a topic that comes up quite a bit in the conversations that I have with job seekers, so I thought it would be appropriate for us to have a little chat about it today.
Yes. So let's just dive in. What impact have you seen confidence or lack of confidence have on your career?
Well, what I see the impact of lack of confidence that I've had on my career held me back in terms of taking risks, going up for promotions, even speaking up in meetings. And when I talk to job seekers, a lot of them are sharing that they are feeling that they're being held back in their career because they lack confidence. They doubt their abilities, can prevent them from speaking up in meetings. And one thing to keep in mind is that others can sense our lack of confidence, right? You can feel the energy that someone gives off, particularly if you're in person. And when others sense that lack of confidence, it can cost you advancement in the interview process. Now, I know that in the past, for me personally, when I was experiencing lack of confidence for multiple reasons, that when I was interviewing, that must have been showing through because I never performed as well. I wasn't my vibrant self. I wasn't articulating the way I typically would, simply because I wasn't feeling good about myself and lacked confidence. So that prohibited me from moving forward in the interview process and probably cost me a couple jobs along the way. And that's what we're seeing, what I'm seeing with a lot of job seekers. I read recently, Marie, that there was an interesting study done by My Confidence Matters in the University of Glasgow, and it revealed that 79% of women and 62% of men experience a lack of confidence in the workplace. And I can tell you personally from the job-seeking clients I've worked with, I've had 4 or 5 job-seeking clients cry because they are so distraught over having their confidence broken down over time, and they don't know what to do to build it back up. So when you're lacking confidence, it certainly impacts your ability to move up in your career or even to be successful in the current role that you're in.
Yeah, that's so challenging. And, those statistics, that's interesting. I wonder if it would be closer to 100% if you ask the same group of people over a stage of years, because this is something that comes and goes, right? One day we might be feeling really confident, and then the next day not be feeling so confident. Why do you think that this, I guess I'd be interested as if we think it has always been this way or if it has been increasing, and then why we think it's so prevalent right now.
That's an interesting point. I think personally that the prevalence of the lack of confidence has increased, at least in the last 3 years, starting through probably the COVID pandemic is usually a good starting place. We had so many people, millions, lose their job, experience furlough, struggle financially because of those things. Even having to go back into the office can decrease people's confidence who had been operating really well with a flexible schedule and the ability to work in an environment that worked for them. That can beat down confidence. We're seeing a lot of a conversation around toxic workplaces, managers that belittle or micromanage their employees. So those things I think have always been around, but I do think that we're seeing this increase pretty quickly, ramping up pretty quickly over the last few years. In your opinion, or in your experience, what have you seen?
That's interesting. I also think people have had to deal with a lot of change. And when we're dealing with change, oftentimes it can rock our confidence, whether that's, new technology or going back and forth with your kids, whatever that might be. That change tends to make us question what we thought we knew, right? And sometimes that can even be ourselves. I've got two little boys, as you know, and I oftentimes, when I'm having a hard time parenting, like I can't even parent my children. How do I think I'm running a business, right? There's this. And so I think when we're experiencing those different changes in our life phases as well as in the world, it can rock our confidence. And you're right, there's been more change recently that probably adds to that.
Yeah, I agree. It's certainly been a challenging few years, and I think people's confidence has gradually worn down over the last few years. And the longer you are in a situation that is uncomfortable or toxic or challenging, the more your confidence can be chipped away, right? So then it's like a challenge of trying to gain that back and feel like you can move forward and function and be successful in both your life and career. Your confidence, right, impacts both of those things.
Right. Yeah. When you get those messages from other people that may be toxic, or like you said, the bosses that are micromanaging or belittling, it's really hard not to internalize those. I know some people in my life say, "Oh, I don't care what people think about me," and well, you just hide it well, because I think we all care what other people think about us to a point, and that kind of brings us to this next term related, which is imposter syndrome, and I know some people that really don't like that term, but we are going to define it and talk about it. So, how would you define imposter syndrome?
Well, one thing I just wanted to comment on briefly that I think people can relate to, just on having confidence knocked down. I once had my ex-father-in-law say something to me along the lines of, "You're a job hopper. You'll never be seen as credible. And as a result, you won't be successful in your career." He said that to me almost 15 years ago. And I remember it today. So it certainly impacted my confidence at that time. And, if you hear multiple comments like that from various people, it doesn't even matter. I didn't even like my father-in-law, and it still crushed me. So, and this is a good lead-in, Marie, to imposter syndrome. And I don't love the title either, but the way that I would describe it is when you have feelings of inadequacy that persist despite you experiencing success. Or if you, imposter syndrome could be assuming that your success is attributed to luck with the right timing, some kind of fluke. And this is especially, imposter syndrome is seen quite a bit among high achievers, which is interesting because I was reading about this, and it's because high achievers assume that others have the same level of ability as they do, and that the accolades they themselves have been given are unwarranted as a result. It could also be, imposter syndrome could also be a byproduct of being in a toxic or hostile environment. This could be in your personal life. It could be in your workplace, right? And most everyone has been there. So if this is starting to resonate and be like, ooh, this sounds like me, everyone's been there, or almost everyone's been there, including executives, high-profile professionals. In fact, the Journal of Internal Medicine did a study that said up to 82% of people have faced feelings of imposter syndrome. And a KPMG study actually revealed that 75% of female executives have experienced it in their career at some point. Those are some pretty, shocking statistics.
Yeah, that it is. It's hard. And do you see anything, or how have you experienced if there's difference between men and women when it comes to imposter syndrome?
I don't have exact numbers on that, but from the research that I've done, women tend to experience imposter syndrome more than men. And I think that's partly because women tend to experience a lack of confidence more than men as a group do. I did read that in the KPMG study, nearly half of executive women that were surveyed said that their feelings of self-doubt actually resulted from never expecting to reach the level of success that they had actually achieved. Now, I don't want to totally take us down a rabbit hole, but when you look at the level of confidence between men and women as they walk into a job interview, there have been plenty of studies that indicate that men are significantly more confident in walking into those situations than women are in general.
Interesting. Yeah, just so much to unpack here, and think about how people can unravel this. And when we think about imposter syndrome, particularly, we'll come back to this, but people have also said, there is some positives when you feel that way, to really sit and look at, okay, I feel like I don't belong here. What are the facts? Is that true? Do I have some gaps? Are there some gaps that I should look at? And I think there's also a cultural lens to this, because women and minorities, especially when they're both women and minority, tend to have external factors that are impacting that. And so I've heard some of our DEI colleagues say you got to be careful when you're talking about imposter syndrome with a cultural lens, because it's more than that, right? There's this systemic stuff that tells some people you don't belong here. And that's not really imposter syndrome, right? That is systemic issues that we as a world need to work on. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. Before, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back and we'll talk a little bit about what you can do if you're feeling like you lack confidence or you're feeling some imposter syndrome, because Kate's got some great tips for you there, and we will make this actionable so you can walk away with something. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back in just a few minutes.
You know that the career landscape has changed and that you need to be proactive about managing your career. You can have the foresight, skills, and confidence you need to take charge of your career and seize opportunities. A strategic advantage and career expert, Marie Zimenoff has helped thousands of leaders like you get focused, get found, and get hired. Visit getcareersmart.com to find out more. That's getcareersmart.com, or call 800-521-2080 to schedule your complimentary consultation. It's time to take charge of your own career path. But how do you get started? First, tune in to The Career Confidante with Marie Zimenoff. Each show will feature national business leaders, tips and insight from Marie and her guests, career management tools, and a weekly career smart tip. She'll help you move forward, earn that promotion, get hired into the career you want, and brand yourself. The Career Confidante is broadcast live every Monday at 3 p.m. Pacific Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on the Voice America Business Channel. You are tuned in to The Career Confidante with Marie Zimenoff. If you have a question or comment for Marie or her guest today, please call 1-866-472-5790. That's 1-866-472-5790. You may also send an email to marie@astrategicadvantage.com. Now, back to the Career Confidante.
We are back here in the Career Confidante with Kate Pozeznik, and we've been talking about confidence and how we can grow our confidence. We started talking about imposter syndrome, which is related to this, and how people can feel like they don't belong or they haven't earned where they are when they're feeling success. And that's kind of the hard part with imposter syndrome, right? Is that it usually comes when someone has experienced success, and that imposter syndrome kind of starts to eat away at us in terms of you don't belong here, or you don't really deserve this, etc. So, Kate, what are some signs that people might be struggling with imposter syndrome?
It's a great question. It could be someone constantly going above and beyond to prove themselves, such as working late hours, which can lead to burnout. It might present itself as over preparing, maybe playing small, holding back. It could even be procrastination, self-sabotage, and will impact your career negatively if you don't change your mindset. So if you've recognized that mindset might be an issue, you need to think about ways to take control of your inner critic. And we'll talk a little bit about ways to do that. And one other thing I just want to mention, if this is resonating and you're feeling like you're suffering from a lack of confidence or imposter syndrome to the point where it is debilitating and impacting your ability to function, we're here as career professionals having a conversation. In some cases, it may be appropriate to have a conversation with a professional to get additional help.
Right.
But
yes. And that lack of confidence can have deeper roots, as you're saying, and maybe depression. So yes, if people need resources, please do reach out to us. We're happy to connect you with those, or you can find resources on the National Career Development Association site, the Career Thought Leaders site, or your local health department counseling. That's a great point there, Kate, before we continue.
Thank you, Marie. So you might be thinking about what triggers imposter syndrome, or even, the lack of confidence. And it could be in response to feedback that you've been given over time, or maybe one piece of feedback that was not delivered constructively that really hurt. It could be after losing a job, or, to Marie's point earlier, it could be experiencing the systematic isolation of being the only woman, the only person of color, the only minority at your new job or even your current job. And it's important that, when you're in situations, that could also be when you're under pressure. Maybe there's a big project or you have to make a presentation. And so it's really key that when you are under pressure, that you acknowledge that. There's no need to psych ourselves out, right? So acknowledging, yes, this is going to be hard, but I've done this to prepare, and I will sort out the rest as it comes. This kind of goes into, the lack of confidence even creating anxiety for you. And that's why I think this is such a important topic in helping people understand how they can boost their confidence, because it really just does impact so many parts of your life. But I think it's really important, lastly, to acknowledge that imposter syndrome and lack of confidence is not a personal failing. It's not a character flaw. It's oftentimes the result of external factors like the ones that I just mentioned.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And oftentimes it also has some bearing in how we measure success and how we measure our worth. So I think you've heard this before, but I always talk about people thinking self-worth and confidence and kind of getting those two confused. But when you determine your worth based on your performance, you have challenges, because then when people give you positive feedback, you feel good about yourself. But then when people give you negative feedback, you feel bad about yourself, because you are connecting your self-worth to your performance instead of connecting your self-worth to something, internal your humanness, your being, that spirituality, connecting to something bigger than yourself. And Kate, oh, I'm just having this moment that I wonder if that's why we're seeing an increase in lack of confidence, is because COVID also took away some of our ability to connect to some of those bigger things, right? People couldn't go to church, people couldn't go to Rotary, people couldn't go to those community things that make us realize we are more than just our performance at work.
Yes, and surrounding yourself in a supportive network is one of the things that you can do to boost your confidence for the exact reason that you said. It's having positive reinforcement about the value that you bring to any environment that you're in or to the workplace. So I think that's really interesting that you brought that up. And I do believe that the isolation that we all experienced over the first year or two of the pandemic had a significant impact on not being able to be part of the communities, at least in the traditional sense.
Yeah, but I kind of derailed you. You were talking about other triggers.
That's okay. I think, honestly, it really could be any number of things. But I do want to just reemphasize, it's not related to your self-worth. And I've seen a lot of job seekers. If there's anyone out there that's listening that's in this role, this might resonate with you. A lot of job seekers that have been working for the same company for 15, 20 years. I find that those job seekers seem to identify their self-worth maybe a little bit more often than what I see job-seeking clients who haven't spent as long as at a job. Because I think we get so comfortable in a position for so long, and we spend so many years and so many hours at that job for an extended period of time that we start to embody that as part of who we are and start to judge our worth based on that, just like you said, Marie. So I think it's important to be conscious of that so that you can reevaluate whether the beliefs that you have about yourself are true, if they're fact-based, or if they're simply self-limiting beliefs that are going to hold you back from success in your life and career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is so huge. And I love that you connected procrastination to this lack of confidence, because I think too oftentimes we think, oh, I'm procrastinating. I just need another system, right? I need a better calendar or I need a to-do list. And it's like, no, maybe you need to go a little bit deeper and figure out, is there a reason that you don't do that, that you feel like you can't be successful at it, that what, not all the time, but oftentimes I think there's a lot more to procrastination than a to-do list can fix.
Yes. I personally struggle with procrastination, and I have personally done self-work to try to understand why I procrastinate and what I can do to avoid that. And some of it is confidence-based. If I don't feel like, oh, I'm really good at this, I know I'll do a job and it'll be an easy task for me. If I'm not feeling that way, I'm more likely to put it off because I'm dreading doing it simply because I'm not feeling confident about doing the task.
Right. And sometimes it's that fear of success too. Like if I take on this really cool project, what if I really like it and I don't know how to go there? I mean, our brains do all kinds of things to us. So I loved that point, because sometimes we can go to a very tactical place when we're struggling with procrastination, when actually the real answer might be much deeper.
Yes. And I can relate, excuse me, to the fear of success, even in my own career business. And I think a lot of people can relate to this. I feel that, when things start ramping up and the things that I've planned, the goals that I've put in place I'm getting closer and closer to reaching, I start thinking, well, if I get any more clients this month, I won't be able to take care of them all, and I'll have to think about outsourcing or doing this or doing that. And it catapults or it tumbleweeds until I realize that I have basically freaked myself out about the possibility of success and thinking about what could go wrong or what I'll need to do to make it happen, instead of thinking, well, if I am successful, what would that mean? What would I gain from that? And so that kind of leads to one of the other things that I know we were going to talk about, Marie, which is coping with imposter syndrome and or a lack of confidence. And that is, you must. This is so critical. You must adjust your mindset from being a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And if you haven't read Carol Dweck's book, I think it's just, what is it called? It might be Growth Mindset. But look up Carol Dweck. She has a great book about how to change the way that you think, change your mindset so that you believe that your basic abilities, the ones that you already have, can be further developed through effort and work. And that it's not just natural talent or, smarts being what you're limited to. So you want to expand your mind and believe that what is possible, instead of thinking about things that could prohibit you from moving further ahead.
Yeah. Well, we're going to hold on that note, and we will take a short break here again, and then we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more about these coping mechanisms and actions that people can take. And number one, sounds like go and do some research on Carol Dweck and growth mindset, helpful opportunity to just see that structure and to think about how that might apply for you. So we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back in just a few minutes.
You know that the career landscape has changed and that you need to be proactive about managing your career. You can have the foresight, skills, and confidence you need to take charge of your career and seize opportunities. A strategic advantage and career expert, Marie Zimenoff has helped thousands of leaders like you get focused, get found, and get hired. Visit getcareersmart.com to find out more. That's getcareersmart.com, or call 800-521-2080 to schedule your complimentary consultation.
Think you've seen everything there is to see in online television? Let us surprise you. Visit voiceamerica.tv today for sports, health, business, and more on demand 24/7.
What sets apart voiceamerica.tv from the other video content providers on the internet? Choice and flexibility means that you can host your video content live or on demand on the main voiceamerica.tv channels through your own branded media player or your own private TV channel. We support multiple media formats, so all of your video content can be in one place. We offer a number of advertising and video packages. For more information, visit voiceamerica.tv. If you think you've seen online TV like this before, let us surprise you.
You are tuned in to The Career Confidante with Marie Zimenoff. If you have a question or comment for Marie or her guest today, please call 1-866-472-5790. That's 1-866-472-5790. You may also send an email to marie@astrategicadvantage.com. Now, back to The Career Confidante.
So we are here back at the Career Confidante talking about confidence and imposter syndrome and how to boost your confidence or deal with imposter syndrome. And one of the topics you were just talking about, Kate, was the growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And what's I love about this, and this was Susan Critton, who's one of our fellow board members on Career Thought Leaders. She also teaches our personal branding class. But she brought up this idea that you don't have one or the other. You are going to have a fixed mindset about some things. Oftentimes, those are things where you feel challenged or stressed, or there's a lot of change going on in that area. And you're going to have a growth mindset about other things. So you might have a growth mindset about your fitness, right? That you can get better and you can eat, and then if you slip, you can be better the next day. And that's really easy for you. But when it comes to work, because you've had some experiences that have drug you down and you're feeling not confident in that area, you might have a fixed mindset about that when someone gives you feedback, it's reflective of your person or that it's not something you can change. And so I loved this idea that she proposed about looking at the areas where you do have a growth mindset and figuring out how could you apply some of those same thinking patterns to this area where you're struggling right now, because you do have the opportunity in yourself to learn and grow. You've done it before, and you can identify those same thinking patterns for yourself, because then they're going to be yours and you can apply them to the other areas. So I love that you're talking about this growth mindset, and just wanted to share that insight from Susan while we were here. Anything you'd add there, or what other coping strategies would you share, Kate?
I love what you just said, and it sort of reminds me of like we're retraining our brains to think about things in a different way. So I appreciate that addition. Some of the other ways that people can cope with imposter syndrome or lack of confidence is changing the way you think. And we all struggle with this. I can certainly, I will admit that sometimes I have negative self-talk. Oh, I'm a failure doing that. A different way of saying that, I'm a failure at this is just reframing it and saying, I failed at something. One thing. I'm not a failure. I made a mistake. So don't embody any mistakes that you make. They don't define you. We all are learning and growing. That's just human nature. So we're all going through that. We talked about this a little bit earlier, Marie, but developing a supportive network or community around you to share successes as well as challenges, it can make you feel less alone, and it can also boost your confidence because you'll have validation from your peers or superiors that recognize your value and your worth. And you might think about joining maybe an industry group. LinkedIn communities are really wonderful. There's some good Facebook groups out there as well, or even employee resource groups at the company that you work for could be really helpful for boosting your confidence in the workplace as well. There are a couple things that I like to do. I was just telling Marie during the break that I battle with bouts of self-doubt or lack of confidence, and there are a few things that I do that I find are helpful to start rebuilding that confidence. One of them is to do a very simple skills inventory. And there are lots of resources out there to help you do that, but it basically is an assessment to help you identify where your greatest strengths are. That practice alone can help you reframe how you see yourself, because you'll recognize, you know what, I hadn't really given it much thought, but I am pretty good at sending out email communications. So doing that, an inventory can be helpful, listing the accomplishments that you're most proud of. And I would include personal as well as professional, because remember, we are not our jobs. We are not our careers. We are human beings. So I encourage job seekers or clients in general that they list accomplishments that they're most proud of on a regular basis. And then you're able, not only is the practice of this, the activity actually help boost your confidence right then, but writing these things down and referring back to them can help when you're having a rough day and not feeling great about yourself. One thing I mentioned over the break is, I do struggle with confidence like other people do. And I had a rough day the other day, and I decided, you know what, I'm gonna assess my goals, my business goals and personal goals, and see where I stand. And when I looked at the goals that I had and where I stand today, this far into the year, I found that I had already surpassed a couple of the goals that I had, and I thought I was nowhere near it. So even doing an assessment of where you were professionally or personally last year and comparing it to what you've learned or gained or improved upon in the past 6 to 12 months can also be really helpful as well.
Yeah, that competitive comparison piece is so much trouble. There's a
Yes.
couple of quotes about comparison being the thief of joy. And I think training yourself to compare yourself to yourself, like you were just talking about, where was I a year ago versus where I am now, or what are my goals and what have I achieved? When we do that, we get that little comparison bug fixed without doing it externally. And I don't know, there's a whole body of research on Facebook and Instagram, I'm sure would fall into this, but this research was actually done pre-Instagram. I know, was there a time? But it said that people, when they were looking at pictures of others, their mental state got worse and worse and worse. But when they started looking at their own research, their own pictures, their own memories, their mental health went up and up and up. Now, it's not surprising that right after this research was actually when Facebook instituted their memories feature, where now you get a memory almost every day. I don't know if you are on Facebook enough, but I do Facebook marketing and my family's on Facebook, and you get almost a memory every day. And that started or ramped up significantly after this research. And what you're talking about is kind of applying that same thing to ourselves professionally.
Indeed. Absolutely. And in fact, I suggest people keep what I would call either a brag book or a kudos folder where you list accomplishments. You could even include a spreadsheet on projects that you worked on, whether they were on time and under budget. Record small wins. Don't forget the small wins. Sometimes small wins add up. That's all I'll say about that. And then any recognition that you've received, whether it's formal or informal, keep those things on record. I know it sounds like a pain, but I can tell you from personal experience and recommending that my job-seeking clients engage in activities like this, it will make career advancement so much easier because you'll be able to update your resume and LinkedIn profile much more easily. But it is also like I'm having kind of a crummy day and I'm not feeling really great about myself. Hey, pull out the brag book. Look at your notes. And recognize that you are the shining star that you are. And I'll pause there because that was a lot of talking. I have some other thoughts around ways that folks can boost confidence. But I wanted to see if you had anything you wanted to add to that.
Yeah, brag book is a great idea. Share a few more.
Sure. I think, and this is not a small task, but practice of being really conscious about eliminating self-doubt. That can be as simple as acknowledging a negative thought and then letting it pass. Okay, this is how I feel right now. It's not going to be how I feel in a day or in 2 hours. Say your thoughts out loud. Sometimes it doesn't even matter if you're with someone. Sometimes just expressing yourself out loud can help take away the power that self-doubt has over you. Writing them down is even better. And then evaluate your thoughts. What evidence backs up that whatever you're anxious or lacking confidence about, what evidence backs up that will even happen or not happen? Is it because you had a previous bad experience? Has someone planted a seed that I can't do that? Going back to the example I shared about my ex-father-in-law telling me that my so-called job hopping would prohibit me being successful in my career. It could be, be thinking about where these beliefs came from and if they're actually true or not. And then I'll close out my thoughts by saying you need to claim your wins. And I talked about small wins. Look at your goals, where you're at, where you're at today, and you've got to get cool about taking compliments. A lot of us, especially if you're suffering from imposter syndrome, getting a compliment makes us think, I don't actually deserve that. If you have trouble accepting them where they make you uncomfortable, practice just replying thank you. Just say thank you. Don't say thank you, but I couldn't have done it without X. Thank you, but I didn't do it alone. Thank you, but I had this, whatever. Just say thank you and own what you've done. And just allow yourself to shine. I know that sounds kind of corny, but when you allow your best self to shine through your confidence, you are allowing the other people around you to do the same thing. So you're actually doing a service to others and boosting other people's confidence by allowing yourself to share yours with others.
Yeah, that's so powerful, Kate. Well, this has been a marvelous 45 minutes for people to just bask in understanding they're not alone and some ideas for what they can do to move forward. How can people find more about you? How can they follow your other content?
Yes, I would absolutely love to hear from listeners. The best way to connect with me is through LinkedIn. I have an unusual last name. So my LinkedIn is KPOZEZNIK. And from there, you can access my website and all my other social media. I am on TikTok, Clubhouse, Facebook, LinkedIn. And I post all sorts of interesting content and would love to share it with our listeners. So definitely feel free to connect and message me if you'd like.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Kate. And again, that's Kate Pozeznik. And we will say goodbye to Kate. We're going to take a short break and then we'll come back. And as I always do, I'll wrap it up for you before we're done with the show. So thank you, Kate. And we'll be back right here again on the Career Confidant.
You know that the career landscape has changed and that you need to be proactive about managing your career. You can have the foresight, skills, and confidence you need to take charge of your career and seize opportunities. A strategic advantage and career expert, Marie Zimenoff has helped thousands of leaders like you get focused, get found, and get hired. Visit getcareersmart.com to find out more. That's getcareersmart.com or call 800-521-2080 to schedule your complimentary consultation.
Think you've seen everything there is to see in online television? Let us surprise you. Visit voiceamerica.tv today for sports, health, business, and more on demand 24/7.
What sets apart VoiceAmerica.tv from the other video content providers on the Internet? Choice and flexibility means that you can host your video content live or on demand on the main VoiceAmerica.tv channels through your own branded media player or your own private TV channel. We support multiple media formats, so all of your video content can be in one place. We offer a number of advertising and video packages. For more information, visit VoiceAmerica.tv. If you think you've seen online TV like this before, let us surprise you.
You are tuned in to The Career Confidant with Marie Zimenoff. If you have a question or comment for Marie or her guest today, please call 1-866-472-5790. That's 1-866-472-5790. You may also send an email to marie@astrategicadvantage.com. Now, back to The Career Confidant.
Welcome back to the Career Confidant, and we've been talking to Kate Pozeznik, and she's just awesome. I hope you enjoyed that. Thinking about confidence and your ability to really own it. And I said this a couple of times in the first segment, but she had so much great content, I didn't want to go there while she was sharing. It's interesting that confidence is a feeling, right? You feel confident or you don't. Now, what we know about feelings, of course, is that we have control over how we feel. And usually those feelings are caused by a belief. So we have a thought that creates this feeling, and often those feelings interrupt our actions. And so there's a few different things that you can do based on your personality and your approach to rein in the control that those feelings have over your behavior. One, as Kate was talking about, when you have that belief or that thought, is to stop it there, to short circuit the system right there and say, is that thought true? Is that thought helpful? Sometimes it's true, but it's not helpful. So we got to figure out how to reframe it or rework it. Sometimes it's just not plain true. And that's oftentimes what we get when we're looking at confidence or imposter syndrome. The other thing, and we did a show a while ago about the 3 types of confidence, and we oftentimes are hard on ourselves for not feeling confident in a situation where no one would feel confident, because the definition of confidence is that you can really only have confidence in something that you've done before. So when you're doing something new or you're in a new situation, you are automatically not going to have confidence. It's impossible. Nobody would. They might have self-confidence. Self-confidence is our belief that we can do things, that we are confident in ourselves, even if we might not be confident in this situation. And you get self-confidence from that reframe of beliefs and thoughts around how you perceive yourself and your ability to overcome, to make things happen, to step into new situations and be successful. And Kate was talking about that accomplishments book, the brag book, whatever you want to call it. And one of the things, if you're really struggling with confidence, I would have you sit down and think about when you had succeeded in situations that were new, different, when you were just starting out, because that will help you see the self-confidence piece of it, that you can do these things. You do show up and achieve even when you're in bad situations, and you can come back to those times when you're struggling. Then the third level, of course, is self-worth. Not really a level of confidence, but a different type. And that self-worth is what we're trying to tease away from our performance. Our performance does not dictate our worth. Other people's appraisal of our performance does not dictate our worth. And there's a negative and a positive to that, because when people tell you you do good things and you feel good, that's fine. However, if we get too wrapped up in that, then when people tell us negative things, we don't feel like we have that self-worth, because we've started to tie our self-worth to people's appraisal. We see this a lot with celebrities and influencers, right? That it's easy to get caught up in feeling worthy because other people tell us to. But then when that all goes away, if we don't have that real self-worth, we're in trouble. I saw, random thought, but I saw something about Nicolas Cage the other day and just the amount of money that he'd spent on random things. And who knows what's going on there. But that is one of the things that can happen when people don't have self-worth. You think about weight and overeating, you think about, or undereating, you think about sleep and lack of, or all the time, those signs of depression, but they can also be related to our inability to create self-worth separate from others and other people's perceptions of us. Kate talked about some actions that you can take and some ways that we can think differently. I would also encourage you to think about how you can get involved in something bigger than yourself, how you can get connected in a way that helps you find self-worth not related to your performance in any role, not just at work, but as a mother, as a wife, as a husband, as a spouse, as a partner, as a kid, whatever it might be, all the other roles we play. We don't want to have our worth wrapped up in our performance in those roles either, because that can be just as problematic. Husband says, you're doing a great job today, you feel good. Husband doesn't say anything, you feel bad. You're in that same cycle that is unhealthy and unhelpful, and oftentimes then starts to hurt the relationship because you're depending on that person, be it your parent, your spouse, your child, or your employer. You're depending on them for your self-worth, and it just is not long-term sustainable for anyone else to bring that to you. How are you going to develop it yourself? Takes that, kind of sitting with yourself. What do you like about yourself? What do you value about yourself within and outside of all of those roles that you play in your life? Who do you want to be for yourself, not just for those around you? And to really sit in that and think about it. And when you have that foundation of self-worth, and then you build on it with that additional piece of self-confidence, then it's going to be much easier to have confidence in situations where you've been experienced, and to bring that self-confidence into situations where you haven't had experience, and show up confidently in those situations as well. So it is a feeling, it's something we have control over, and it may go a little deeper in really figuring out your self-worth and your self-confidence so that you can show up as confident, especially when you deserve to be there and you've done it before and that imposter syndrome starts to creep in. Do I deserve it? Should I be here? All of those lovely self-talk pieces. Stop them in their tracks. Is that thought true? Is that thought helpful? And what do you want to do with it moving forward? I have enjoyed this conversation around confidence. I'd love to hear your thoughts on confidence. If you want to drop us an email, send me a message on LinkedIn. I'm pretty easy to find on LinkedIn as well. Kate was talking about, Kate Pozeznik, interesting and unique last name. Marie Zimenoff, also happy to connect with you on these topics. And if you'd like to leave us a review, we'd love to hear your thoughts on the show. Always welcome your ideas for other topics and guests as we move into the rest of this year, 2022. Hard to believe that we're almost halfway through. We do have some other great shows and great topics coming up for you the rest of this quarter, I guess. We've got some already ready in the hopper for you. And we look forward to seeing you back here as we do our shows weekly, really. And our goal is to help you get the skills that you need to take care of your own career as we move into a phase where there's going to be more independent work, less companies taking care of people even than ever before. And it really does create more opportunity for you if you are going forward and learning the skills that you need to do to take care of your own career. So that's why we're here, and we look forward to seeing you back here again next week on the Career Confidante.
Thank you for listening to The Career Confidante. Marie Zimenoff will return again with another terrific guest next Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific on the Voice America Business Channel. Be sure to join us then.